And welcome to part 2 of my video reviews of the course that I'm currently doing with the Open Polytechnic about starting your business. So in this module, so there's 4 modules in this particular course. I've already reviewed the first one, and now I'd like to review the second module. There's 4 modules. This module is about a bit of self-analysis, really, of you as a business owner, your skill sets, what you're good at, and what you need to work on. And actually, making this video, I've really been dragging my heels. I should have done this actually a little while ago, but I was procrastinating because this is actually something that I personally find difficult to do, the self-analysis, because I think it's, if you had talked to me about this years ago, I probably would have been keen as to do everything about self-development and improving oneself. But I've probably got to a point where I feel like I'm quite set in my ways, and I need to be honest about that. And I'm not so good at changing who I am and my approach to things. So while years ago I would have read books like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I would have raved about it, and I would have followed the recipe. Now I'm probably more likely to think, yeah, that's nice, there is some good points in there, but that's not me. So this particular module has been difficult for me, and I still have yet to do the assessment for this module, because that too I've been procrastinating on. So I'm doing this video first to hopefully motivate me to do the assessment. So the module covers a lot of different aspects of being a business owner. And as you probably know, if you're already a business owner, you wear a lot of different hats when you're a business. As the module, the curriculum course content explains very well, you are it. You are the business. So you have to cover all the different aspects of being in business. And so that's more than just being good at whatever the particular product or service is that you're selling. So for example, if you were a painter, then obviously your technical skill is painting, which is great. So that is like a very important aspect of this skill assessment. But when you're in business, as opposed to being just an employee, there are other aspects too you need to be good at, and they relate to things like the financial side of the business, and also relationships with stakeholders and with perhaps other vested interests, for example, customers for one thing. It may also be regulatory bodies that you need to deal with. At some point you may take on employees, so you need to also deal with them. So you need to have different skills to be able to deal effectively with all those different parts of the business. So the module covers a whole different range of different skills that you may need to consider and to assess yourself on, to know if you are good at it or you need help with it. And it kind of reminds me of a saying by Robbie Burns, I think it was, and he said, kind of to see ourselves as others see us. And that is kind of the point of this whole module, really, is you might think you're good at something, but the reality might be quite different. And that is that comes back to why I find this whole self-assessment business kind of difficult, because I don't know whether I have really accurate mirrors in terms of getting feedback, whether it's from within or from others around me. So it is difficult to do it accurately, because what can happen too is that you can get feedback from other people about, what's my skill assessment, what am I good at, what do I need help with, and what might happen is that you end up doing what's called confirmation bias. So essentially you filter out the feedback that you get that you don't like. So you might think that you're good. Say, for example, you might think you're good with numbers. You might think, I am financially literate. I can deal with the finance side of the business and cash flow and that part of it. But the reality might be that you're actually not that good when it comes to managing a business finance. And somebody might tell you that. Maybe, for example, it might be someone at the bank. You might be applying for finance, and they give you some feedback on, or they feel that your financial literacy is not up to scratch. Now, because you already have this confirmation within that you are good with numbers, then you can sometimes filter out some of that feedback. So that's why this self-assessment business is, like on paper, it's very straightforward, but the reality of how it works in real life might be quite different. And what can end up happening is that you can go ahead with something, and ultimately perhaps fail at it because the reality is that you weren't good at, or you didn't have the required skill set, but because you thought you were good at it, you didn't actually reach out to get the help that you need, maybe from a business mentor or a trusted friend, or someone in the industry that might have been able to assist. So it's almost like this module is not telling you something that you possibly don't already know. It's actually just reminding you that this is important, and it's potentially a trap that you might fall into by not doing it in an accurate way. So let's just have a look at some of the screens that are covered in the module, just to kind of reiterate what I've said and bring out some of the main points as part of module 2, the skill set assessment. Now, as I mentioned, this is one of the things that people find difficult, and me included. So that's why I've been dragging my heels when it comes to actually getting something done about this module. So I mentioned here that like people admit that they have weaknesses, but like it can be difficult to do that. The skill set that it uses an example here of someone who runs a knitting business, and it does a bit of a roundup of what their particular skill set is. So this is actually an interesting point, because what you might find is that what you could possibly do is maybe you could do a skill set assessment, perhaps on a friend that is in business, and they could do a skill set assessment on you. So that might be one way to approach this, if you're having difficulty like me to get this done. So the skill set, this table here that you can see on the screen, so it's divided into 3 core areas that a business owner needs to consider. One is the technical. We mentioned that before. That generally comes pretty easy to most business owners. That's why they perhaps got into business in the first place. And that's things like industry knowledge and the particular skill set they have. Then there's the people skills needed. So that's perhaps if they take on employees, or they need to deal with stakeholders that impact on the business, then they're going to need those people skills. And then lastly, this is the affective skills. So this is a particular perhaps character, personality of the person, and how that impacts on the business as well. So that is just an example of what is included in the module there, and it covers a lot of different aspects of the business skills, skill set assessment, also development, and it has a few points, or a few resources that are available to business owners to help them to work on their skill set and to develop the particular skills they need. And so I'll just finish by saying that while this might seem a little esoteric, in that it's talking about things that are kind of that whole self-analysis business, which can be kind of difficult, also difficult to blur. I mean, to have that distinction between the business and you as a person. But the reason it's so critical is that because when you become a business, When you go from being an employee to a business owner, there are these skills that you will need. And if you don't have them, then unfortunately what can happen is that it becomes a big contributing factor to why your business might fail. So, that's why it's a whole module of its own in this particular course, and it's really worth looking at and developing more as you go. So don't be afraid of, looking in the mirror as a business owner and making sure that, if there are some weaknesses, if there are some things some knowledge gaps, then, don't be afraid to ask for help and help you, to look at ways that you can develop those skills over time and become a more qualified business owner. So that's it for module 2, and we'll be looking next at module 3, which is all about business stakeholders, both internal and external. And we'll see you on that next video.